What is YouTube? How y'all doing, man? Check it out. Hey, Scandal, man. I like the way she break it down. She breaks this thing down. We got at Scandal's channel, Inside Diddy's Defense Strategy in Traffic Trial. Hit them thumbs up, hit them subscribe buttons, hit them bells. Let me know if you feeling this bad boy. We're live as we doing this reaction. Just want y'all to know that. I'm live and because we were supposed to have Uda on. He's outside of the courthouse. This is a brother that I met, and he's supposed to come on the live, and he remind me of me, man, but a younger. He got more energy and everything. He out there doing his thing, and I told him like 3 times. I said, dude, if it wasn't for you, this whole trip would have been born. I'm glad I met him. Also, on the trip, I met Tisha Tales. I should pull it up on my Facebook, y'all. I met Tisha Tales and my bad, y'all. And I met oh man, how in the world? What? Anyway, I met Tisha Tales and I met I can't get to my channel. And I met Rotten Mangoes, and I met the lady that be reporting back to Nancy Grace. I gotta remember her name, y'all. So meeting them 4 people made the whole trip worth it. It made it all worth it, man. And the footage I got. So y'all check out. I don't even know the name of the title. Uncle Mike. Y'all look through and y'all can see Uncle Mike in front of the courthouse and everything. And we've been actually getting some good views off that video, and we got a part 2 that's coming up and a part 3 because I could not believe I left out some things that need to be said. So y'all hit that subscribe button, hit that bell. Let's check this bad boy out.
P. Diddy's defense team. You know his team has been going. P. Diddy's defense team. You know his team has been going in on cross-exam. But what's going to happen when it's their case in chief? Who's going to take the stand? And will one of the witnesses be P. Diddy himself? This is Scandal, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Sierra Gillespie. Let me begin with some pretty obvious reporting. P. Diddy, he's got some money in the bank. Oh. Or if you believe recent testimony, he's got tens of thousands of dollars in brown paper bags. Either way, he's got some cash. And what is he using that money for, at least in recent months? Well, his all-star defense team, of course. And we're talking some of the top names, like Mark Agnifilo, whose wife, by the way, Karen Agnifilo, is representing Luigi Mangione. You might have heard of that guy. What about Brian Steele? Remember him from the YSL trial when he was the attorney there? Oh, and of course, Tenny Garagos, her dad, actually represented Scott Peterson. I mean, these are like the A-listers when it comes to the defense. And honestly, so far, this case has been kind of one-sided because it's been the government's case so far. We've heard from their witnesses, their direct examination, their narrative, all of that. So what can we expect from the defense? Let's pause real quick before we get into that to explain why we're here at all. The defendant is 55-year-old Sean Combs, known also as P. Diddy, Puff Daddy, Puff Love, lots of names. He's got multiple charges, 5 in all, including racketeering conspiracy, sex trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion, and transportation to engage in prostitution. He's pleaded not guilty to all the charges. At the time of this recording, and probably by the time it airs, we're still in the government's case, their case in chief. They go first. But after that, the defense. So what can we expect from them? Well, we can take some hints from their opening statement. So let's begin with those racketeering charges. The defense said the only people in this courtroom who will tell you that they participated in, knew about, or came to an agreement to participate in a racketeering enterprise are the prosecutors. Not one witness will get into this courtroom and will take that witness stand and tell you that they were part of any racketeering influenced corrupt organization act enterprise. And the reason is simple. There was not one. We're hearing a lot about sex throughout this case. It's kind of an underlying theme. And the defense is going to say, and they kind of did in their openings, okay, maybe Diddy had weird sex you wouldn't do, but that's not illegal. Back to the transcripts. This case is about Sean Combs's private, personal sex life, which has nothing to do with his lawful business. The government has no place here in this man's private bedrooms. The government can say over and over again that this is not about his private sex life, but the evidence will show you that it is. I'm telling you, he had a bit of a different sex life. For example, you have not heard any evidence in this case, but prosecutors already told you about lubricant, and you may know of his love of baby oil. Is that a federal crime? No. You will hear he got IVs after ingesting drugs. Is that a federal crime? No. The defense also says Diddy will be honest to a fault, even if it makes him look bad. One of the central themes of my statements to you will be personal accountability and personal responsibility. As the trial goes on, we will see that with each witness. We are going to take that on ourselves. We will not shy away from the things Mr. Combs did, but we will not deny his personal responsibility or own things he did not do. The defense also said you'll hear testimony that P. Diddy has a temper. And when he drank or when he did the wrong drugs, he would get violent. My client is not proud of that, but it is one of the many things we are going to own and fully admit right up front at this trial. Sean Combs had a bad temper. He sometimes gets so angry or so jealous that he's out of control. You will see evidence and you will hear some testimony that does not portray my client in a good light. You will hear some text messages, some voice notes, and some witness testimony that may make you think, I don't think this guy is a great guy. I don't like how he just lied to his girlfriends. I don't like the things he just said in that text message. I want to tell you now, there may be one point, there may be multiple points at this trial where you think, I think he is a jerk. And I think he is kind of mean. But he is not charged with being mean. He is not charged with being a jerk. He's charged with running a racketeering enterprise. So you heard it straight from the defense. Yeah, Diddy's violent. Okay, yes, he was. We agree. We agree with you. But it's not sex trafficking. And though there was violence that you're going to hear about, you already have. That violence is not part of any RICO. That violence is not connected to sex trafficking. And that violence is not prostitution. There was a name in criminal law for the violence that we will hear about and we will see at this trial. It is called domestic violence. It is called assault. Domestic violence is a very serious matter. I want to say that now. It is a bad, illegal problem, and it is something that the law addresses. We take full responsibility that there was domestic violence in this case. Domestic violence is not sex trafficking. I want to say it again. Domestic violence is not sex trafficking. Now, what we can expect from the defense is they'll probably point to consent when it comes to this alleged sex trafficking. The alleged victims who will testify in this case are capable, strong adult women. They were all getting something each of them wanted from him and from being in a romantic relationship with him. And these adult, capable, strong women will have to take on the same level of personal responsibility for their lives that he's going to take on for his. But as you evaluate the evidence in this case, remember that he is not charged with being a flawed individual or having a flawed relationship. They did not stay with him over and over again because of force, fraud, or coercion. The evidence in this case will show you that over and over again, day after day, these women fought to be in a relationship, fought to do what they wanted to do in consensual adult relationships. I mean, I could keep going. I could dig deeper and deeper into the transcripts, talk about all of it. However, I kind of want to hear from a criminal defense attorney himself about what he expects from Diddy's defense. So let's throw that interview. All right, let's bring on today's guest. It's a Scandal favorite, criminal defense attorney, Matt Mangino. Matt, thank you. We love whenever you come on. So thanks for coming on again today. And we're talking about P. Diddy's defense. And I guess I'm just wondering, is there any advantage for the defense because they're going second? I mean, they already saw the prosecution, who they called, kind of their game plan. Is that a win for the defense?
Well, it's always nice to be in that position. When you're defending a case, you know what the prosecution has presented, you know what their strengths and weaknesses are. But normally, you evolve, your defense evolves based on what the Commonwealth does at times, or I mean, the state or the federal government. We call it Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. But the mere fact that you learn some things during the prosecution's case, you're already going to come in with a defense. You may tweak it, you may modify it, but if you're coming into your part of the case and trying to base it on what the prosecution's done, you're in trouble because you haven't formulated that defense yet. Now, again, you can tweak it, you can make some changes, but you're going to come in knowing what you intend to do in your case in chief.
And I'm wondering about that generally. What is up their sleeves? And I have kind of a theory. So tell me what you think. I mean, the evidence is there. We've seen the video of Diddy getting violent with Cassie, but the defense has said straight up, yes, this is domestic violence. It looks bad and is bad, but that's not sexual assault. That's not sex trafficking. And I'm wondering, my theory in all of this is that the defense would say, okay, yeah, there were freak offs and maybe they're weird to you, but it was all consensual. Do you think that's what they'll say?
For the fun
yeah,
of
I think this case is going to come down to consent.
People into
if we think back to the opening statements,
support her.
and Diddy's attorney, when she made her opening, she talked about this is a case of love, jealousy, infidelity, and money. And that's what she's going to focus on. And she's going to focus on this idea that this is a money grab. And yeah, well, for most of us, this isn't a typical relationship. These aren't the kind of evenings that we spend together with our intimate partners. But that doesn't mean that it's against the law. It doesn't mean that it's a crime. And certainly they're going to pound away and say, hey, this is not in any way racketeering or sex trafficking. This is a weird relationship in which there's a lot of moving parts.
I couldn't remember.
None of those parts are illegal. Anyway. So I think that's what they're going to hit home with, and we see that, again, even by the cross-examination.
And that's exactly why the FBI or whoever, I don't even know. I mean, that's why they started off like that. They starting off setting the scene. They starting off to let people know that Diddy was a very bad person when it came down to women and abuse and S. So they set that scene up. They haven't even started showing the RICO side of it yet. I bet you next week. Give me 1 week, y'all. That's all I ask. Because everybody tired of this. Yeah, you beat Cassie. We already seen the video. We've seen all that. But what is to come? What is to come? They got more people they're going to call. What you think? You think it's going to get worse? Or you think it's going to get juicier? That's what I'm thinking. Save your good for last. Fourth quarter. You know what I'm saying? You got to battle this last round. We ain't even get to the last round yet. Come on, man.
Of prosecution's witnesses. Yeah. Hey, why did you say I like freak offs with you if, in fact, you weren't consenting to this ongoing strange relationship? And why would you be saying that Diddy's a great guy if he's sexually assaulting you and physically abusing you?
I think you're right that it's going to come down to consent. And I guess one of my follow-up questions about all of that is, it's been pretty open throughout this entire trial that drugs were used or alcohol too. And I remember learning this like in college, even in high school, you can't give consent if you're under the influence. So if these people are drunk or high or whatever, how does consent play into all of that? Because they've admitted they've been on drugs.
Well, yeah, again, that is a legitimate question, Sierra, and it's still an issue of consent. So did they not have the ability at some time during these events to give consent? But again, what's different about this isn't a single encounter where a man and a woman were together and she was under the influence and she wasn't able to form consent at that time, and she wakes up the next morning and realizes that she's been sexually assaulted and didn't even know it at the time. That's not what we're dealing with here. We're dealing with an ongoing situation of engaging in what appears to be, based on the defense, consensual sexual relations with other partners and all kind of other things going on there. But, if you didn't consent, if you were under the influence of drugs or alcohol to the point that you couldn't make that decision, the next day or when you come to realize it, you're going to object to it. And that's not what we see here. What we see is an ongoing, bizarre relationship that appeared even by texts and messages that it was consensual and something that she wanted to join in.
You're right, based on the cross exam, how even just the fact that if Cassie is opposed to this, and I'm just playing devil's advocate here, if she's opposed to this sexual encounter, then why does she stick around with him and date him openly and go on the red carpet with him and text him, I want to freak off, like what you said? Or even Mia, for instance, texts him years later and says, I love you so much, you'll always be my family, things like that. So I think you're right that the defense is, they're doing a good job on cross at the very least to bring these things up. And I guess switching into who they'll call as their witnesses, I have to ask about P. Diddy himself, because this is always the question. Will the defendant take this stand? And I can understand not wanting to be subjected to cross-exam from the United States government. I myself would not want that. I don't recommend that for a fun Friday afternoon plan. However, it would be a way for Diddy to get his side of the story out. He's been bashed a lot in court, and in this way, he'd be able to kind of explain himself. So what do you think? Is it a possibility that he really will testify?
Fuck, man.
Well, that's probably the most important decision that any defense team has to make.
Here we go, baby.
Put your defendant on the witness stand. And what's more important is that decision is really not the defense team's decision. Now, they can recommend to their client, we don't want you to testify. This is why we don't want you to testify. Or they could even say, hey, we think it'd be a good idea for you to take the stand. That fundamental decision has to be made by the defendant. And it's so important that the defendant participate and make that decision, him or herself, that the court conducts a colloquy with the defendant. If the defendant chooses not to testify and explains to that defendant, what their rights are and what they're giving up by agreeing not to testify. That's how important it is. There's no other decision necessarily made by a defense team that goes through such an important colloquy with the
Shout
court
out to Helen
to make a determination if this is truly a voluntary decision to testify or not to testify. So, and again, jurors are admonished not to hold it against the defendant if he or she chooses not to testify, whatever that admonishment is worth. People draw their own conclusions. But I certainly think that these jurors, after hearing all of this evidence and, essentially would a bad person, not necessarily a criminal person, we don't want to jump to that conclusion, but what a bad person Sean Combs is, what a bad person Diddy is, what he did to these women, if you believe their stories. And you don't have to just rely on their stories. We know today, or this week, there's the video of him assaulting Ventura's back in front of this jury. So they know he's a bad guy. There's no question about that. Okay. The question is, did he commit crimes? And the next question is, are those crimes racketeering and sex trafficking? So those, there's a lot of layers to this for the jury.
Yeah, I think you brought up a really good point there. I think the defense even talked about this during their opening, where they're like, you can hear all of this stuff and you might not like him. You might think he's a bad guy. You might not have done all these things, but doesn't mean that he's a criminal and he's guilty of this racketeering conspiracy. So I'm sure they're going to hammer home on that. And before we move on, because I just have to fantasize, I guess, about P. Diddy going on the stand, because I would love to hear what he has to say. If in fact Sean Combs himself is like, yes, I want to testify, that's his choice, he says he's going to do it, what would the preparation look like for the defense planning ahead all of that?
They would grill Combs over and over and over and ask him the most difficult questions that they could with regard to his relationships, his, sexual sort of preferences, what he's into, what he's, why this thrills him. I mean, they're going to have to put it all on the table. Okay. Because if you remember back when attorney Garagos gave her opening, she said, hey, my client is a jerk, but it's not a jerk. It's not a crime to be a jerk. Okay.
Yes.
So what they're going to have to do is they're going to have to put it out there that he liked to watch his girlfriend with other men, that he liked to see people with baby oil rubbed all over their body. He got mad. He threw tantrums. He was physically abusive, verbally abusive to his staff and to Cassie. I mean, just put it all out there. Don't hold anything back. Then they're going to come back, and what are they going to ask him? Do you like to watch your girlfriend? I mean, it's already out there. Okay. So what do they ask? Was this, were you involved with other people? Did you ask somebody to burn your friend's car? I think, putting Diddy on may not be the worst decision, because you're going to agree with just about everything the prosecution says, and none of it you've been charged with.
And I think it would be interesting, too, for the jury to see P. Diddy say, when they ask something like, did you participate in freak-offs? Yes, I did. If he's honest about things that make him look bad, like the Intercontinental video where he's physically assaulting someone. Yes, I did do that. If he's admitting to the bad things and then doesn't admit to the things that he says he's not guilty of, that might be interesting. And I guess as far as the jury goes, because they're the ones who are paramount, they're the most important because they're the ones who are going to decide his fate, really. During this time, while it's still the prosecution's case, is the defense paying attention to how jurors are reacting to the witnesses that are on the stand right now?
I'm sure. I'm sure that they have, people who are actually observing the jury every day in their reactions to a certain line of questioning, responses, and how those jurors are manifesting their internalization of what they're hearing. I mean, for most people, and predominantly a substantial majority, this isn't the kind of stuff that they normally think about in a social setting and relationships. This isn't what they want necessarily for their daughter or their sister or something like that. So that's churning in them. Okay. But, the defense has to keep driving home. Yeah, that's all bad. And he's a jerk and he's a bad person, but he's not a sex trafficker and he's not, a racketeer. And so that's where I think, the prosecution has to make that connection between this unsavory conduct and the actual charges that he's been charged with.
Talking about witness testimony for the defense, TBD about P. Diddy if he comes on the stand. I guess we're all kind of on the edge of our seat waiting for that, so we'll see. But what about other people that they would call to testify? Who do you theorize what type of people they would call?
Well, I'm sure there are a lot of people in sort of their sphere, okay? The people that they hung out with, the people that they socialized with. And, are there people out there that are going to provide a different version of, Sean Combs? I don't think they're necessarily going to try to show that he's a warm and fuzzy guy. But I think what they're going to try to do is say, hey, it looked like that Cassie and him had a strong relationship. It looked like that she was really attached to him. They spent a lot of time together. They spent a lot of fun time together in this mixed company. Again, which would, juxtapose what she said about being, under the influence of drugs all the time. I became drug addicted, became, mentally unstable because of this relationship. They're going to want to paint a picture that shows that's not what we really observed. And the same thing with the witness, his assistant, Mia, that, hey, they had a solid relationship and she would do anything for Diddy. And she, put out a lot of fires for him. And she really cared about her job and cared about Diddy's reputation and his future. Again, contrasting exactly what we've heard from her herself.
Okay.
One specific witness I wanted to ask about is Alex Fine, who is Cassie's husband now, but met Cassie through P. Diddy because he was originally Diddy's personal trainer. And when Cassie took the stand, there was kind of a situation with the defense where they said, hey, we might call him. We don't want him in the courtroom during this specific line of testimony about an alleged rape. So it was eventually decided that he would be, escorted out or leave at least during the discussions about this alleged rape. However, they kind of teased, yeah, we might call this guy. And it's interesting for a couple of reasons. I mean, he knew Diddy well. He's now married to Cassie. They just had a baby within the past couple of weeks after Cassie got off the stand. So what do you think? Could they call him?
Well, I guess that's a possibility. Certainly, is he going to say anything different or contrary to his wife? I mean, unless the defense knew of some specific interactions that were documented in some way, some messages or something like that, where, he's defending Diddy or she's denying that anything ever happened, like we're learning about these freak offs and all this sort of thing, maybe. I don't think, if you don't have anything physical like that, if you don't have any document to substantiate your line of questioning or to contradict him on, you're not going to call him as a witness because you don't know what he's going to say. And only if you have something that some document, some record that conflicts with anything that she said, would he be possibly called as a defense witness.
All right, I'm about to wrap up here, but I have one last question for you, and it's kind of a general one about P. Diddy's defense. I mean, I'm thinking they're going to bring their A game because we have a lot of really talented attorneys who've been prepping for months and months. I mean, Diddy's got a pretty hefty bank account. I'm sure they're being paid very well and working very hard. So what do you expect? Do you expect they're going to, bring the fight?
Oh, yeah. I mean, they're going to, I mean, we already have observed them bringing the fight in terms of cross-examination of some of these witnesses. Like, for instance, when Mia was recently on the witness stand, I mean, there was even objections that they were harassing the witness, and the judge, didn't formally say, "Hey, yeah, you're harassing this witness," but the judge said, "Hey, we're gonna take a close look at where you're going with these questions and how you're asking them." So we know they're going to come out with guns a-blazing. And I think that, as I said when we first started talking, Sierra, that you don't come into a case trying to develop your defense based on what the prosecution says. You have a defense. You've worked on that defense. You've prepared that defense, and all the witnesses that are going to present evidence in terms of that defense. You might tweak it, you might modify it a bit based on what happened in the prosecution's case, but they're going to be ready to go, and they're not going to hold back.
Guns a-blazing. I think you're right about that. Matt Mangino, thank you so much for coming on Scandal with us today.
Thanks, Sarah. It's always great to be on with you.
I am so eager to see what's going to happen. Who's going to testify? Will it be Diddy? Will it be P. Diddy? And what sort of evidence will the defense bring? Well, we're going to bring you all of the updates as they come out right here on Scandal, so make sure to subscribe so that you don't miss anything. And in the meantime, send any sort of tips, requests, messages to our email. It's scandal@lawandcrime.com. Thanks for watching today's episode of Scandal. I'm your host, Sierra Gillespie, and I'll see you next time.
Number one, if Diddy testifies, if Diddy get on the stand, he clearly knows he lost. This is my last hurrah. I'm going to jump up there and say what I got to say. I want the spotlight on me, so I want to say my last words because they're going to eat them up. You can't lie on the stand. You can't lie. These negative things you've been doing ain't going to work on the stand because everybody's going to see that you're lying. You know what I'm saying? So him taking the stand, it's like, look, I'm about to go to jail, dog, for the rest of my life. I want to say something. Yeah. That's what's about to happen. if he take the stand. I think that we are all jumping ahead of ourselves with this case, man. They have not presented any findings on the dang, or have they? Maybe I'm the one ain't listening. Have they actually said, look, out of these 90 terabytes of information that we took from his house, only thing I know, they got weapons that they haven't talked about with the serial number scraped off. That's a no-no for the company. You know, Rico, you got to put it back to the company had these guns. What else they have? They got, the company has flew people back and forth over state lines, which is illegal. Don't know why that's illegal, just to catch somebody, but it is illegal. It's on the books. It's law. There's a law on the books. So I don't know, man. Hey, I don't know. So y'all let me know what y'all think. I'm gonna get on up out of here, cause crazy, you so crazy. That's my man. Don't forget we live when we doing our reactions. Y'all take it light, take it slow. Tell them Uncle Mike told you so. Peace out.